So we're on, are we? Good morning, everyone. I'll declare the meeting open and acknowledge the traditional owners of the land where we are today and pay respects to our elders past, present and emerging. My name is Ian Birch and I'm the presiding member. I'll introduce the other panel members online. We've got Jackie German, who's the deputy presiding member. Hello, Jackie. And next to me, I have Nima Premji, who is a specialist member. And elected members from the city of Armadale who are present here, yes?
Oh, no, they're online.
No, oh, they're online, sorry.
Hello.
Caroline Willinger and Councillor John Keogh. Councillor Keogh, I can see you. Councillor Willinger, I can see.
Can you see me? No, I have to change my settings.
I can hear you.
Okay, great.
Thank you. We have apologies from Councillor Michael Hancock and Councillor Shivanis Peter. Next item is members on leave of absence. We have no members on leave of absence. Item 4, noting of minutes. Minutes of previous meetings are available on the MODAP website. Now we're like, okay. Next item is declarations of due consideration. If you'll pardon me, the order has changed a little bit from when I last did this, sat in this chair. The next item is declaration of due consideration. Can I ask all panel members to confirm by the show of hands that they have duly considered all of the documentation contained within Part B of the agenda and Part B additional information, and note that there was a R13 direction for further information submitted by me and published on the 2nd of April. Can I have that acknowledgement, please? Thank you. Everyone's acknowledging that. Disclosure of interests. We have the standing declaration of interests that if elected members have considered at a council meeting. Elected members, have you considered this item at a council meeting? So that doesn't apply. Sorry, where's John? John, you haven't considered this? No? Okay.
Sorry, no.
You haven't considered this as a council meeting?
No, no.
Okay, thank you. So that doesn't apply in this case. Which brings us to item 3, which is Form 2 application for Lot 11, number 182 Brookman Highway, Kelmscott, place of worship. We have received no presentations, requests for presentations. We do have the officers from the city online. We've got Paul Rosser and Glenn Windass. If any panel members have any questions of the officers, now's the opportunity to speak up on what's happening here. Sorry, did you hear that part? I'm offering questions of the council officers. So, Jackie, you had a question?
Yes, I did, please. I was just interested in, there is a mention of the existing single house to be kept, and in the applicant's information, it mentions that it could be an accommodation facility for people in need or least community members. The report doesn't address the use of the single house. I was just interested in that we're considering it as a default of that, not necessarily for short-term accommodation or crisis accommodation or anything similar.
Yes, if I may. My understanding was that it was purely meant to be for single dwelling purposes. So we weren't proposing to change any use or consider it on those grounds. It's as long as it's being used as a single dwelling. there's no objections from the city.
I think there might have been some mention made of maybe being a rectory for the person who is in charge there, I'll put it that way.
Still wouldn't fundamentally change the use. It's even incidental, if you could argue that. Yep.
Jackie, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. And the other question I had through the presiding member was that in the WAPC recommendation, there is an additional new condition regarding the additional 2 years that's proposed. I noticed in the city's RAR there isn't such a condition. I was just interested in whether that was intentional or whether we should be adding something.
Glenn, you go.
Yes, we acknowledge the additional 2 years. We've actually didn't impose it as a separate condition. Kind of left that up to the DAP to see whether a separate conditions needed or not. Or we've actually placed it in the resolution part, but not as a separate condition. But I'll be guided by the DAP whether you want a specific condition or not.
Thank you, Jackie.
Yeah, I would think it does need a separate condition because otherwise it's going to default to the 2 years in the regs.
So can I ask the question, and I didn't mention previously that this is a dual approval required, so we've got 2 reports, one from the city, which we have in front of us now, and one from the WAPC. The WAPC one does mention 4 years. Would you, Glenn, would you have any concerns if it was, otherwise we could have a situation where two different periods.
Yeah, presiding member, no objections to that. It makes sense to make them consistent, to avoid that an issue happening down the track.
Thank you. Jackie, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you. Nima, you had?
Yeah, just on the 2 and 4, I was a bit confused with that as well. So would the city be happy with the 4, by which WAPC has put in their report, or 2?
4, no objections to 4.
Thank you. That's all.
Okay. Thank you. I'll just make the comment. I've always thought that the period of approval is more appropriate in the body of the actual preamble, if you like, rather than as a condition of approval, because normally it's a statutory requirement anyway, but that's just a small thing I've harboured for a long time. But as long as it's in there somewhere, I don't have a concern. So, elected members, do you have any questions of the administration? No? John? You've disappeared. Oh, there you are. No? Thank you. Okay, well, we can move to the item, which this is item B41A. And as I said, it's for lot 11, number 182, Brookton Highway, Kelmscott. It's a Form 2 application concerning a place of worship. We have a responsible authority recommendation to accept the application and to approve it subject to a number of conditions. Do I have a mover and a seconder for the recommendation? Moved, Councillor Willinga, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Seconder, John Pride. John Pride, sorry. John Keogh. John Pride's name's underneath it. So Willinga and Councillor Pride. We have that. Okay, thank you, Councillor Willinga, as the mover of the motion.
Just I'm happy with it. We saw it obviously a few years ago. I actually think it looks a bit better when it's consolidated as it is, and happy to put that 2 or 4 years wherever the panel wants to add that. If they feel the need to add that anywhere, I'm happy with that.
Thank you. John, Keogh is the seconder, councillor Keogh. Are you happy to accept the motion with the amendment? I think all we need to do is cross out 2 and put in 4, and it covers it.
I'm fine with that. I think that's a good change.
Okay, thank you. And did you wish to speak to the item?
No, yeah, as Councillor Willinger said, this came earlier on, and looks to be fine, and happy with the changes that have been suggested. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Jackie, I'll move to you. Did you wish to speak to the item at all?
I'm supportive of the item. I think that the amendments and the keeping of the single dwelling makes sense, and together with the consolidation of the car parking, so supportive with that amendment proposed.
Thank you. Nima, did you wish to?
I'm supportive of the motion, and yes, the design is looks much better than what it was initially. So, and I'm happy with all the amended conditions. It makes a lot of sense. So I'm supportive of it.
Thank you. Yes, I'm also supporting the motion with that small amendment. So back to you, Councillor Linger, for to close.
No further comment. It's fine. Thanks.
Thank you. So all those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. We now move to item 4.1b, which is for the same matter. We did have, I think we've got John Pride here, and I did ask for a clarification of a couple of conditions. I think they were conditions 23 and 25, wasn't it? Yes, 25. Unfortunately, I understand there was a response, but I've been out since early this morning, so I haven't received anything. But John Pride, are you still there?
Sorry, I think we just lost me.
We've lost John.
Where internet's lost me now.
Just while they're looking, if you saw my query, I did have a query about the there's a standing Supreme Court ruling on the validity of conditions, and says that you can't have a condition that requires approval of a third party, and in conditions 23 and 25 it calls for approval by Main Roads and approval by biodiversity, conservation and attractions. And we usually deal with that by just saying approval of the city, who is the, or in this case, the WAPC, approving by the WAPC, they're the clearing authority. And I just saw clarification on that. But as I say, I understand there was a response, but I haven't got it for some reason.
Yeah, it was sent out yesterday afternoon, so I'm not sure I didn't get it in. But
So
it was sent out yesterday afternoon, but I'm sure John can go over the points again when he joins us. Glenn, he's online. Is that who you need to respond to?
no, it's really for the WAPC.
They've just gone, have
I think Glenn would understand what I'm saying.
it's just joining back on. That's great.
Gee, that's.
Should be rejoining shortly.
Ian, I thought there was a response there, but I think it missed the point as far as the third party. It was more justifying the conditions. So I think that maybe we need to put in consultation with Main Roads and in consultation with DBCA.
I think that'll be safer. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I think we can move ahead. Sorry, I didn't acknowledge the I'm still battling with the new order, but I'll get there. We did have Mark Bruning and Ellie Klein. I think they're online somewhere or in the audience.
Yeah,
No?
they're online.
But they haven't asked for a presentation. But if you did have to have any questions, but I don't think there were any questions of they're from the construction company. So we'll move to the item, which is item 41B, which is again for the Form 2 application for the place of worship. We have a recommendation to approve the application with a number of conditions and I did mention the if we have a mover and a seconder, if they want to consider that we, in conditions 23 and 25, that we consider just making that approved by the city on advice from Main Roads in case of 23 and biodiversity conservation attractions 25. So, but you're welcome to move the motion as before us or that way. So I'll ask for a mover and a seconder.
I'm happy to move that again
Moved.
with, as suggested, with the change to condition 23 and 25 for the main roads and the Department of Biodiversity and Conservation, the note to change that.
Thank you. And we have two movers. So, Nima, are you happy to be the seconder? Thank you. So, Councillor Willinga, as the mover, you speak to the motion. That's as amended.
No, I'm happy with that, and I'm happy to put those extra changes in as well, just to be on the safe side. Thanks.
Thank you. Nima, as a seconder. Supportive?
And also the amendments.
Okay, thank you. Jackie?
Yeah, supportive with those modifications.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Keogh?
Fine with those proposed changes, thanks.
Thank you. I'm also supportive. So back to you, Caroline, to close.
Yeah, no further comment. Thanks.
Thank you. I'll put that recommendation as amended. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. That deals with the City of Armadale. Thank you very much for your attendance.
Thank you all.
Okay, so now we move to part C of the agenda. I'll get some. Now, joining us, Councillor Shane Mack and Councillor Tricia Duggan from the Shire of Serpentine, Jarrahdale, who are with us here in the room. We also have officers Andrew Trossick and Ryan Fleming. And we have a number of applicants and submitters, which I'll come to. So the first thing is to go back to item 1, which is declarations of due consideration. Can I ask all panel members, again by the show of hands, that they're familiar with the substance of reports and documentation contained in part C of the agenda? Everyone's making that acknowledgement. Thank you. Disclosure of interests. We have the standing declaration. Does that apply to yourselves, councillors, and you're happy to make that declaration?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other interests? No? Thank you. Which brings us to the item, which is a Form 1. Well, no, sorry, it's not a Form 1. It's a Section 31 reconsideration. And I have received a request for a number of presentations. Here they are. I'll just see if those people are here. Firstly, we have Paul Spearing. Paul, I can see your name there. You can hear me? You're on mute at the moment.
Yeah, my apologies, I can hear you.
Thank you. I've got Robin Stampton and Vanessa Reynolds. Vanessa, is Robin with you?
Yes, we're both together.
Good, because I know there's an overlap in your submissions. So did you want to do it sort of jointly?
Sorry, you're a little bit hard to hear.
I notice in your submission there's some duplication or some overlap. Did you two want to present jointly?
If it's okay, I can do the reading on both, but Robin is here with me.
Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, look, if one of you needs to chime in when the other one is speaking, just let us know, and
Thank you.
we'll be able to deal with that.
Wonderful, thank you.
We also have Connor Fisher from Glenn MacLeod Legal. Connor, I can see your name there. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And David Reid from Element Advisory. David is also here. Is there anyone else, David?
No,
just you?
I can answer questions, but I'm happy to present on my own.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you. Well, the first presenter is Paul Spearing. Paul, I've granted you 5 minutes. The new rule is 3 minutes, but given this has come back from the SAT and it was previously considered under the old regime, we'll allow you the 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Am I up on screen there?
So, over to you, Paul. Yep,
okay.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you once again for allowing me to present. My name is Paul Spearing, and I'm speaking on behalf of more than 65 local residents who oppose this development and who will be most adversely impacted by the imposition of this school. Now, just quickly, if I may, Mr. Birch, you sat on the DAP for the Australian Islamic School a few years ago on Nicholson Road. You may be disheartened to know now that that school has actually been able to commence without a key condition being fulfilled with the upgrade to the Oxley and Nicholson Road intersection. Something similar happening in this location here in Oakford is a potential reality, and decisions need to be made now to prevent that adverse planning outcome. Everybody loses in that situation. Easiest way to do that is to modify the condition to make sure that the roundabout is physically in place before the development occurs. Now, although this group that I represent is quite an eclectic group, the proposal has galvanised us like nothing else could. If there is to be any good outcome of this process, it is that we all know each other a little better than we did a year or so ago. Now, that is extremely powerful. So what has galvanised us so strongly? Although we come to this point in time from different directions, we have all identified that this proposal will fundamentally change the area that we call home. We have worked hard as individuals and as a community, even if we didn't realise it at the time, to create what you see now. Effectively, with the stroke of a pen, what we have built as a community here in Oakford could be ripped away and claimed by a highly exclusive, backwards organisation as their own. They have seen what we have here and they want it. The fact is, even if they are successful, they actually don't want to become part of the community here. They want to be the community. And that can be seen by their attempts to have any outside community involvement or interaction with them squashed. The applicant has asked for the removal of the additional conditions that were introduced at the council meeting back in March. But I would argue that not only do they need to stay, they need to be strengthened, particularly when it comes to the community reference group. The adverse amenity impacts begin right from the start of the development. If this organisation wants so desperately to become part of this community, then this reference group must be in place before the first sod is turned. As has been argued at length previously, the benefit to the community from this development is extremely tiny. The applicant now wants to remove this final skerrick of public benefit by opposing the shared use agreement. Why? The question is, are these the actions of an organisation that really wants to be a solid contributor to the community? Now, if we put all that aside for the moment, as the initial reasons for refusal still haven't been adequately addressed, the proposed site still relies on a single intersection, and the upgrading of that intersection is even more uncertain now that the applicant has taken sole responsibility for the delivery of it. A footpath will have to be introduced, and agreements with other landowners will have to be renegotiated without the surety that a government body has. It comes down to this: there is still no concrete or detailed plans for the road or pedestrian infrastructure, and as such, it is still premature and should continue to be refused. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. Any questions of Mr. Spearing? No, thank you. We'll now move to the next presenter, which is going to be Vanessa Reynolds and also Robin Stampton. So I think, Vanessa, you're going to take it away?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you for letting me present today. So I'm reading Robin's first. As a local resident living in the estate to the immediate east of the proposed site, I'm in serious opposition to the application of the proposed application for many reasons, which cannot be adequately addressed in a 5-minute presentation. So we're just going to raise two main concerns. The applicant has no clear definition of what is actually proposed to be established. There's far too many inconsistencies in the application and reports to be able to determine what's being requested for approval. The information that should be standard is not consistent across the multiple reports and designs. Some of the specialist reports state that the establishment could only be constructed under very specific conditions. For example, the Galt geotechnical report states that landfill in excess of 2 metres is required. The building designs are not consistent from drawing to drawing. Some include additional future buildings or indicate planned areas for extensions, while others have no indication. The master concept has been created to include and facilitate additional use by the church and associated groups outside the educational needs. The applicant has provided some very concerning responses to the community stakeholder consultation comments that contradict the information provided in the application and new revised proposal. So as landowners in this area, we aren't permitted to import infill into our properties to raise the ground level, to create gardens or utilise most of our properties for the 4 months that we're underwater all year round. This applicant is perhaps going to need to bring in 2 metres of fill. Is that actually going to be approved? If it is, then their site is obviously going to tower around everything else in the rural area. If they're not, are they going to actually build up each individual building pad to 2 metres, retain it, and then have all the rest of the ground level down underwater for the kids in winter? How also will they manage their school ovals, their gardens, their gathering areas? The application states that 64% of the site will actually be landscaped. So in some of the slides, there's evidence there that they are planning to extend. There's reference in connecting to a future chapel building. Some of their own campus configuration vision says that they need sufficient space for growth and development, opportunity to exist and support the FRCA community in the long term. And yet their community stakeholder responses say no additional expansion is proposed by the development. There are so many inconsistencies, we don't know what they're asking for and what they're not. If we go to slide 4, both images are from the same application. However, they've got different options for extensions. Slide 5, this is actually taken from the FRSA's 2040 campus configuration. The 3-campus model also affords the broader FRCA with significant opportunities which are well beyond the specific remit of the FRSA. Developing a new campus allows to work in collaboration with other FRCA organisations to leverage planned infrastructure to serve the broader needs of the church association. It would be possible to develop a master plan that includes a multi-purpose venue that could operate as a church building on Sundays, a performance venue during the week for music and drama, and community hall graduation venue lecture theatre during weeknights. It could act as a hub for many FRCA-related activities, and there are proposed buildings in their plans that say that they're for community use. As we move through the slides, there's more there that say no additional uses of expansion, no additional uses of expansion plans are proposed by this application. So does that mean that they're implying that they'll apply for those at a later date? Unfortunately, there's very little benefit in the way to the SJ community. So it's really unclear why we're considering discretionary use to approve this land for something that it's not actually intended for. When we're asked to voice our opinions and what was prioritised to us in the Shire, everybody wanted a tight-knit community with a natural setting and a relaxed lifestyle. So as far as we're concerned, the adverse impacts far outweigh the benefits of this application. And I'll leave it at there. You've all read the slides.
Thank you, Vanessa. Robin, did you want to add anything?
Sorry. Sorry, you're very quiet.
Did you want to add anything, Robin?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do I have any questions from members of the panel? No questions? Thank you. Thanks very much for your presentation. So the next one is Connor Fisher from Glenn McLeod Legal. Connor?
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you, Connor. There you are. Yep.
Hi. Just one point to note before I start. I've just had a look at the updated agenda, and it says that I am making my deputation in support of the recommendation. I am making it in opposition to the deputation, to the recommendation.
Yeah, I've overlooked that, but I think it was clear that, yeah, you were speaking.
Yes.
You were opposed.
Yeah. So you've heard from Mr. Paul Spearing, who I represent. He's the owner of 40 Elwood Loop. His property is located in the rural residential precinct directly across the road from the proposed school site. That precinct relies on Cargatitch Road and Abernethy Road for vehicle access and egress. Mr. Spearing represents in excess of 65 other landowners in the area, all of whom oppose the development application. When the proposal initially came before the Development Assessment Panel, it was refused for 3 reasons. The revised development application has not adequately addressed those reasons, such that it should now be approved. It's important to note that the application itself has not actually been amended. Rather, the applicant now proposes to fully construct the roundabout at the intersection of Abernethy Road and Cargatitch Road. The requirement for the applicant to do this is now contained in the recommended conditions. The revised application expects the same volume of traffic to be generated as the original application, and regardless continues to rely on the same sole intersection to access the site. In line with the original refusal, the panel should take the view that the implementation of a roundabout at one intersection does not reverse the significant burden placed upon the road system. The development is likely to have a significant adverse impact on the amenity of the locality. The additional traffic and pedestrian generation will interfere with landowners and residents' quiet enjoyment of the area. That is demonstrated by the significant community opposition to the development and its traffic impacts, which you've already heard about. The first reason for the initial refusal has not and cannot be addressed. That is simply a consequence of the location of the proposed school site and the inadequacy of the road network to support such a significant development in a rural area. It's important to note that there's little to no support for the development in the strategic planning documents. There is no structure plan or development contribution plan for the locality whereby the provision of a large school and the road network to support such a school is appropriately planned. In the absence of that supported framework, approving the application subject to a condition requiring a roundabout would be an ad hoc approach to the planning of the area and would be inconsistent with principles of orderly and proper planning. In relation to reasons 2 and 3, the application was refused due to insufficient information to demonstrate appropriate road and pedestrian infrastructure. The additional information in the revised application only amounts to a proposal to construct a roundabout without further justification of its adequacy. It's not clear whether the roundabout proposed to be constructed has been appropriately planned or modelled at this stage. It's also worth noting that the development has not demonstrated consistency with at least one of the objectives of the rural zone under the local planning scheme. That is because the application has not demonstrated a direct benefit to the local community. Employment with and enrolment in the proposed educational establishment is limited to subscribers to the Reformed Confessions Church, which is less than 1.5% of the local community. Therefore, there is no direct benefit to the local community being those who reside in the immediate locality. The fundamental reason why this development was refused in the first place was due to excessive generation of traffic and its associated amenity impacts. The proposal to build a roundabout does not adequately address those impacts. The development still relies on the same intersection. There will still be the same number of additional vehicle movements. The application should be refused. Those are my comments. I just have one other point I wish to make upon looking at the agenda again, and that is in the actual recommended conditions of approval or in the preamble, there's no mention of substantial commencement. And if the panel is minded to approve, that should be included.
Sorry, can you, is that in relation to a particular condition again? Can you repeat that?
So the officer's recommendation for approval, unless I've missed it, I can't actually see a reference to substantial commencement within a time period. And I would submit the time period should be 2 years.
That's the roundabout.
For the development.
For the development. You're aware that the default approval period is 4 years for that consideration?
Oh, my mistake, my apologies, yes, 4 years.
Thank you. Okay, and Vanessa Reynolds, I can see a hand up there. I have noted that. Did you wish to, I won't go to you now, we'll stick with Mr. Fisher, but did you want to add something?
Oh, it was only that I actually only went through Robin's presentation. Sorry, I didn't do mine, but did you still want me to do that?
Well, it's up to you, but we'll come back to you anyway and you can think about it.
Okay.
So we'll stick with Mr. Fisher at the moment. So panel members, to have any questions of Mr. Fisher? Yes, Jackie.
It was probably more because I got to ask the question to Mr. Spearing, but I figured that Mr. Fisher's his client, Mr. Spearing's a client. So in Mr. Spearing's presentation, he mentioned about modifying the condition regards to the roundabout. I was just interested in the thoughts around that from either Mr. Fisher or Mr. Spearing.
Perhaps Mr. Fisher, did you?
I might leave that to my client, seeing as he made the submission.
All right.
Sorry, can you just repeat your question there for me?
You mentioned in your presentation that the condition regarding the roundabout should be modified. It was in context of the proponent's consultant mentioning that they wanted to modify the officer's condition, but you felt that it should be modified further, I guess, stronger to the officer's recommendation. Is that correct?
Yeah, so my argument is that to prevent an occurrence like what's happening on Nicholson Road with the Australian Islamic School, where the school was able to commence operations without that intersection being upgraded. It's an absolute dog's breakfast trying to get through there at the moment. The way to resolve that is to make sure the roundabout is put in place before a building permit is either applied for or granted. That way, there won't be any pressure put on councillors or the Shire in future date, for example, if the school is built and then money runs out, or there's, like what's happened on Nicholson Road, a water main that's in the way that can't be moved, and therefore the intersection can't be upgraded. And you're stuck with the worst of all worlds. the school can't function as it is intended to, and those living in the area are absolutely gridlocked.
Okay, cool. Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Now, before we go to Mr. Reid, I will go back to you, Vanessa, and was there something in particular you wanted to raise?
Yes, it was just in regards to the roundabout. With Cargodditch Road being a single lane distributor road, it's very narrow shoulders, and it's got speed limits of 80 to 90 kilometres an hour between Mundajong and Thomas. And I know that this is actually going to remain the main thoroughfare for all of the industrial traffic and trucks and things coming from the Mundajong industrial estate. So with the growth population and then all the additional vehicles, I still struggle to see that even if a single lane roundabout goes in there, that it will manage to service 4,000 vehicles an hour during peak periods. So in my presentation, I did put a request in there that should MODAP panel determine today that the application should be approved, I would like to request that you please consider including an extra left-hand turn at the roundabout for each road entering, so that traffic turning to join the flow of traffic wouldn't impact the queuing at the roundabout waiting for their turn. They could actually turn left and flow with traffic, while the other traffic needing to use other accesses could use the roundabout. So I guess in short, it would kind of be two lanes. One would always go left and one would go round the roundabout at each interval of the intersection.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we'll move to David Reid from Element Advisory, who will be speaking in support of the recommendation to approve the application. Can we see this? You able to see this on the screen, or? Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman and panel members. So given we have a new panel than the one that issued the refusal, I just want to make it clear from the outset that the previous panel, the WAPC, the Shire's officers and the councillors all agree that the amenity issues have all been addressed and that the use and scale of the development is acceptable on this site in the rural zone. There's some 150 metre separation between neighbouring buildings and numerous recommended conditions to deal with amenity issues, including landscaping, noise, lighting, waste, fencing and construction management. The reasons for refusal were very specific and related only to the uncertainty regarding the delivery of a roundabout and a footpath connection to Abernethy Road. The roundabout has been fully designed. Up until October last year, the roundabout was fully funded by the state, but with the land resumptions and the servicing relocations, it couldn't be delivered in time, so it was pulled from the hypergrowth funding. In December 2023, however, Council resolved to proceed with the land resumptions. So it's very clear that there's a need for the roundabout, even without the school. So the only matters that need to be addressed today are providing certainty regarding the delivery of the roundabout and then some other minor conditions, two of which went in the original RAR recommended by Shire officers. Firstly, on fencing and condition L, we just think this condition is too specific and should be detail resolved at the building permit stage. It might be implemented with rammed earth or block work, but the important thing is it provides a rural aesthetic and it's visually permeable. It might end up being a rural post and rail type fence, which would be completely appropriate. All we are requesting is that the condition recommended in the original RAR be imposed, and then we work with the Shire at the appropriate time. On the wording of condition Q, the key certainty that the condition needs to deliver on is no roundabout, no school. We also believe that this is reasonable for the roundabout delivery to be certain at the time of building permit, so all parties are provided with certainty before the millions of dollars are spent on delivering building works and pressure applied to open without the roundabout. However, that is where the requirements of the condition should end. The condition as worded contradicts itself. If it's black spot funded, then how is it to be at the sole cost of the applicant? Whilst the Shire is trying to ensure that it's not burdened with any cost of the roundabout by having the school cover the Shire cost at any point in time, we don't believe that is a fair and reasonable position to take. If the roundabout is fully developed prior to the school implementing the approval, then at what point is the roundabout considered just part of the established road network? Once it's delivered, then the roundabout must clearly have been needed without the school. But more importantly, once it exists and paid for, then it's clearly no longer a need for the school to pay for the infrastructure. Once there's no need, then the validity of the condition simply falls away, as it doesn't cover a key element of the need and nexus requirement to be a valid planning condition. It's also not reasonable for the school to be burdened with the Shire's entire share for the funding. For the condition to pass a reasonable test, it must have regard for the existing traffic flow not generated by the school. So say 40% share, or whatever the school share is of the additional peak hour traffic would be. That would be a fair and reasonable cost sharing arrangement. The problem with this is, when do you take the analysis? Is it an AM peak, school PM peak, as it is today, when the Tonkin Highway extension is through, or at 2035? It's just all too uncertain. We therefore believe that the condition should be based on no roundabout, no school, and then the school and the Shire work together to ensure that it's funded and delivered. It's obviously in the best interest of the school for the roundabout to be delivered and provide the land free of cost as per condition P. And the school may choose to top up any shortfall the Shire has for its funding to make sure it's delivered, but the wording of the conditions suggested by the Shire, we don't believe is a valid planning condition. So we recommend a condition Q as shown in our presentation, which is almost exactly the same wording as the start of the Shire's recommended condition. It's certain and final, no roundabout, no school. We also note the objector's comment that the condition is ambivalent or lacks certainty as it relies on third parties. We don't believe this is the case, as the Shire has already resolved to commence land resumptions. The roundabout's being designed and costed, and it's likely to be developed before the school is operational. Road updating conditions like this are imposed all the time. So we're also seeking conditions S and T to be deleted. The mandated share use of privately funded school facilities outside of standard school hours must be left to the school's sole discretion based on the type and suitability of the use proposed. This is not a government school. It's a private school campus for enrolled students. We're not convinced there's a demonstrated need which necessitates such an onerous condition to be applied for a private school to deliver community infrastructure, especially when there's an endorsed district structure plan for Byford that demonstrates where these additional ovals are to be delivered. With the liability, insurance issues, maintenance burden, and potential after-hours amenity concerns to neighbours, we don't believe that it's reasonable for a mandated condition of this nature to be imposed. We note that the Shire's response to the R13 request and the example quoted, and we firstly query whether this was a mutually beneficial arrangement negotiated with the school, or was it imposed as a mandatory condition of an approval such as this. The example quoted for Salvato Catholic College is also directly where it butts Byford Senior High School, where they likely have shared facilities such as ovals. And we also note that it's in the middle of a residential catchment. It's completely different. This condition clearly doesn't satisfy the limits of a valid planning condition and must be removed. Similar to condition S, Council's intent for a community reference group is acknowledged. However, there are adequate conditions recommended to deal with amenity issues such as lighting, noise and construction impacts, where the onus is clearly on the school to demonstrate compliance and for the Shire to enforce them. The operation of a school during school hours does not generate the need for a community reference group to be established. We believe this is a clear overreach for a planning condition, especially when the school not having even control of the terms of reference of the group and how long it runs for. Standard practice that should any concerns eventuate following the operation of the campus, direct contact is made with campus administration for the problem to be addressed by the school to the Shire's satisfaction. Such groups could be set up by the Shire and community representatives, but it's not an appropriate condition of approval in this case. The school is run in accordance with the conditions of approval, then the condition is not reasonable or necessary, and we believe it must be removed also. So based on the above, the reasons for refusal are clearly satisfied. We just respectfully request that the application be approved and the conditions changed as worded. We're happy to take questions. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Members of the panel, any questions of Mr. Reid?
Not
Yes.
Mr. Reid, I've got questions to ask, as I've got questions of Mr. Trossick.
Yeah, we'll come to Mr. Trossick. But firstly, yeah, Nima, you had a question of David Reid.
You presented the design and you said it's been fully designed. So what's the level of confidence of that particular design which the engineers have?
that's probably also a question for the Shire. It's the Shire's design for the roundabout because it was fully funded. It's not our design, it's actually was the Shire's design.
Can you go? That plan, that plan just had element on it. It didn't indicate.
That's why I got a bit
Right, no,
confused.
that's probably our standard PowerPoint presentation
Okay.
that has all our logos
Okay.
all over it, but no, sorry, it is actually a.
So that's a Shire drawing.
It's a Shire drawing.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yes, carry on.
Oh,
Yeah.
so the officers are present. The design that you see on the screen at the moment, hopefully you can see it.
David, no, you
Is
can
that-
stay there. Yep.
What level of confidence does the Shire have with
Perhaps,
that design?
Andrew, if you want to come forward as well.
Thank you for the question. So this tender ready design,
So it's
tender ready, yes.
Tender ready.
So it's gone through 15%, 85%, 100% design. It's tender ready. It was to be funded with a $20 million grant that we got for roads across the Shire. However, it fell out of that funding stream because of the cost of the roundabout. So it is tender ready.
Okay, and the land has all been rezoned, there's no issues?
There's requests to take land out being considered by the 4 owners at this moment in time. So there's 3 affected owners. There's a gentleman on the northwest corner. There's this applicant on the southwest corner. There's a lady owner, she owns the property on the northeast corner, and there's no impact on the southwest corner. So those take requests are out at the moment. So the land is being assembled as we speak.
And what is the level of confidence in acquiring that land?
100%.
Thank you.
Perhaps we'll have the 2 presenters here, and perhaps if you could just run through, because unfortunately I didn't receive for some reason, receive your response to Mr. Reid's request for amended conditions. So would you mind just taking us through, I think it was four conditions?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So late yesterday, we were provided with the opportunity to provide a responsive comment on the proposed revisions. For condition Q, the proposed revisions in our mind are quite uncertain and not final, as you know, 2 important tests for a valid planning condition. We would have constructed condition Q with the intent of being quite specific as to the rural aesthetic. The proposal for garrison fencing, we say, is not in keeping with the rural aesthetic. We say it's unlikely and very unusual that a school would elect for a post and panel fence, because the whole idea of a fence is to secure, and schools this day and age seem to be applying more and more elaborate fencing to secure their premises. So we were of the view that there was still an intent that they want a garrison fence. We said to soften that intent, it needs to be essentially moderated through the use of either rammed earth or earth block column supports, so that the garrison steel is not as prominent on the edge. So that was condition L1. Condition Q, again, with the intent of being very certain and final with the condition. The applicant has now included plans indicating that they will deliver the roundabout, but there's also an expectation that the Shire would use its best endeavours to seek grants towards that roundabout. We felt it would be beneficial to be quite explicit that if we did receive a grant, then that essentially removes 100% of the cost burden from the applicant and balances that against the grant, and that it would be consistent with the test of a valid planning condition to specify in the case of a grant that the shortfall of that grant should be made good by the applicant. Otherwise, the applicant is responsible for 100% of the roundabout cost. the Shire officers are not supportive of any vagueness around this condition. If there's vagueness around this condition is central to the proposal being able to be developed. And so we're very concerned that there would be any lack of clarity around condition Q. Condition S was imposed as part of the council consideration. I haven't sort of furnished a detailed response other than just to talk about the need. There was a question about what is the need for the condition. And I did want to point out we do have a significant shortfall in active open spaces within the Shire. The shared use agreement we do have with Salvador Catholic College. That was a requirement for them to satisfy their development contribution arrangements. So that was part of an application for their proposal. And condition T, look, I think with the cases presented there, hopefully they make it clear that CRGs do serve a purpose in the planning framework. I don't believe that it's an overreach. Granted, it wasn't recommended by officers, but I would agree that it's necessary overreach of the planning system. That's sort of what we responded on yesterday.
Thank you. So, panel members, we'll go back to if there are any more questions of Mr. Reid, firstly. Can't see Jackie. Can't see you at the moment, Jackie.
So shall I stop sharing, Mr. Chairman? Will that help?
Yeah, we could maybe that now. Jackie, did you have any questions of David Reid?
No, not at this time. I think that my questions had been asked. It was more around about the roundabouts and things. So no, I think I'm all right at this time. Thank you.
I had a couple of questions. Firstly, you say no roundabout, no school. And the alternative condition that you've suggested. And you were concerned about the uncertainty of not wanting to commit to development. But you're saying prior to occupation, roundabout has to be completed. So there still seems to me, in my mind, some uncertainty there.
So no, so we basically, so the fundamental point is if there's no roundabout, then the school's not going to be operational. So no one's going to spend tens of millions of dollars building a school if they can't operate. So at the building permit stage, there needs to be some certainty around that delivery of that roundabout. That's part one of the condition. Part two of the condition is that roundabout needs to be in place and delivered before that school can operate. We all agree that the roundabout is to be provided, and we're happy to accept a condition that requires that roundabout to be provided. So building permit stage, make sure there's certainty around the roundabout, and at delivery, it's got to be open and operating before the school's operation. The school is not going to be up, is not going to want to spend tens of millions of dollars developing the school if it can't open.
No, I understand that, but if grants don't come through or stuff like that,
then it's up to the school whether they choose to implement the approval or not implement the approval. So if the cost of the roundabout escalates to something unreasonable, then the school may choose not to implement that approval and try and find a site somewhere else. That's the options that the school has, whether to implement that approval or not.
So,
at the way it stands, the way with the approval in place, the school has every intent to develop on that location. And if it needs to fund the roundabout, well, hopefully there's black spot funding. There was funding in place right up until I think it was August last year for the whole roundabout to be funded. And that was the premise that the application was made in the first place, was the roundabout was going to be there. It's only that it got pulled from that funding due to the timing issues of land resumption costs and servicing costs that it got pulled from that. So we're happy to make sure that that roundabout's in place and understand that if the roundabout's not in place, we can't develop the school. But that is the fundamental part of the condition. It's open for the school and the Shire to work out a cost sharing arrangement that's fair and equitable. It's in the school's best interest to make sure that roundabout's there and paid for. But if it's fully funded and paid for in 2 years' time, and the school's not developed and building permit's not issued until third year and substantial commencements happens then, and then it's not finished until 5 years, at what point is that roundabout actually already part of the established road network that's already fully funded and paid for?
So aside from the black spot, there's also mentioned that it's planned to have a roundabout there. Cargottage is a regional distributor road, and that's under some other.
This is probably a way better question for the Shire's expertise than it is my expertise.
So the classification of Cargottage Road as a rural distributor, so it's an important road. The intersection improvement is warranted under, well, from our view, and that's why we've previously applied for black spot funding for the intersection. We don't have any funding in place for that intersection at this time. I just can't understand the concern around condition Q because, for example, if we are unsuccessful in securing any funding for the roundabout, then consistent with condition Q and consistent with what has been presented to us as additional information, the school would deliver the roundabout if they choose to deliver the school. So well, as I said in my response yesterday, I feel more comfortable with condition Q staying
So,
as is.
Can I ask, is black spot the only possible source of funding, or might there be other avenues for funding?
Like under state black spot program, certainly the intersection meets that threshold. It's a 67% state government contribution, 33% others contribution. Under the federal government's black spot program, it's 100% federally government funded. This certainly qualifies at the state level given the crash statistics, but that's still a competitive process. That's our concern, that it's always a competitive process.
I got the impression that it was also part of a broader regional road network, tied in maybe with Tonkin Highway Extension and all the whole road planning for the area, is that?
Yeah, so this year we'll actually upgrade Cargottage Road from the new roundabout on Thomas Road, which main roads have just completed or are completing. Cargottage Road we rebuilt down to Abernathy Road, but essentially the funds have run out just as it meets Abernathy Road, so it's not going to actually go through the intersection, nor are the funds available to improve that intersection. So that was 100% state government funded, that road upgrade. But yeah, it's just the facts of the matter that the intersection can continue to perform adequately in the absence of a school. But if you do place the school there, then that absolutely precipitates the need for the roundabout. So I guess condition Q has to essentially deal with a couple of scenarios.
And Cargottage will always, well, for the foreseeable future, will remain a single main road.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I think we agree on the first part of the condition pretty much, that our wording is fairly similar to theirs, that the roundabout has to be built. The only thing that's probably different is the cost sharing arrangement, is the second part of the condition, whereas the Shire is basically saying that should that be a 67-33% split, that we cover the 33% split, whereas what we're saying is that there's potential for that to potentially be shared, or if it already exists, then why should the school have to contribute? So that's the bit that's in play. The certainty regarding the delivery of roundabout, we might do.
Okay, thank you. There was mentioned in one of the presentations about the church, possibility of a church. I haven't got the plan.
Not part of the application. It's not part of the application.
Yes. So, and just to confirm, Andrew, we're not approving it. Not approving it.
No, it doesn't include a place of public work.
I know what their longer term plans might be, but that would be a new application. That's correct. Thank you. Yes.
The state black spot program, I'm familiar with. Have you put an application in again since it's dropped out?
This round will open up later this year, and we're intending to apply for this year's round of projects.
So that will give you some time before you get a reply from the state government.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Could I just ask another question? Sorry, presiding member.
Oh, sorry, is that Jackie? Yep.
Yeah, it's Jackie. I just wanted to ask the Shire, was the roundabout design presented in done prior to the application for the school? Just picking up on one of the presenters' requests for the left-hand turning lanes. Has that design actually accommodated, like, was it prior to the school proposal being done? Like, because there was mention of council resolution and land acquisitions happening prior to this application being submitted?
Oh, yes, thank you through you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the question. So the design of the roundabout as a single lane roundabout does absolutely meet the CITRA intersection performance requirements, both with and without a school. So there wouldn't need to be a requirement to make this a dual lane roundabout with sort of dedicated left turn slip lanes that essentially skip the roundabout. So it will, in our mind, and based on the traffic engineering assessment of the roundabout, it will perform with a good level of service with or without the school being in place. So no need to change that design based on the analysis that's occurred.
Great, thanks for the clarification.
Yeah, Councillor.
Thank you. If at a later date it is determined that the slip lanes would be beneficial with the increased traffic from the increasing school population, is there sufficient room for those slip lanes, those left slip lanes, to be put in place?
Thank you for the question. With the availability of additional land, we can increase the size of a roundabout. It wouldn't be able to be fit based on the land that we're acquiring, reflective of the design that we put in front of us.
And if I may ask a second question, I guess something that strikes me is if the school takes on the fallback of the roundabout, then they are guaranteed that that roundabout can go ahead with development. Do you have concerns with your idea of sharing cost, that then perhaps that brings in that level of ambiguity where if the Shire decides not to put forward that additional money to assist with the development, that then it can create an issue where the school can't go ahead because the roundabout's not funded? The reasons it's not funded is because it's reliant on the Shire putting money in that they didn't know was going to come in that financial year, so it hasn't been funded for. I'm just interested in your thoughts of that.
I'm not 100% sure through you, Mr. Chairman, of the question, but that's a decision that the school can make at the time. If it does its full analysis and it works out that, yep, they can start with so many kids, they can get some income in, it justifies the cost of the expense of the roundabout, then that would be a tipping point they would need to meet in order to develop the school. So that would just be part of the myriad of list of costs that they would need to achieve to have that. And whether they then approach the Shire and say, guys, let's try and work something out, it's obviously in the best interest for the Shire to have the roundabout as there, then our condition would allow for that to occur without having a mandated condition.
So your statement just said then that if they had some students in and then decided that the roundabout needed to,
no,
and that's where I just want to clarify that.
Absolutely not. So this, the school can't exist without the roundabout. We 100% agree with that, but this is actually relocating two schools to one school. So they'd have a shared, they'd already have enrolment numbers and they'd have scale and everything like that to be able to understand the financial analysis of whether the whole development is viable or not. So they would already have all that information to make that decision at the building permit stage.
Thank you for clarifying.
Thank you. Jackie?
Could the Shire officers also provide an update on the land acquisition process, please, knowing that they're usually quite lengthy processes?
Certainly, thank you for the question through you, Mr. Chairman. So we've sent out our letters seeking a take by agreement We've got agreement from the 3 affected owners of the land in question. So we're in a very good situation with the land acquisition, having sort of ran that process in my former role for a number of years. They can be very problematic if you don't have agreement to take land, but we've thankfully got agreements to take land from the 3 affected owners. We've moved the roundabout away from a 4th owner who wasn't supportive. So we're in the process of assembling that land through just standard Form 1A subdivisions and payment of compensation for the land value, refencing and the like. So the land is in the final stages of being assembled.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, Mr. Spearing, we're in session with just the panel now. We can't take questions. I'm still going back to this, irrespective of which way the condition Q is written. You're going to have to come to
Another wording with the condition that says applicant, as a town planner, I cannot afford to pay that.
The proponents will have to come to some kind of agreement with the council, otherwise there's.
It might stack up as part of the overall cost that it actually works out for the school to have to fund that roundabout. That'd be a decision that school has to make at that time. So if there's no black spot funding and the Shire doesn't contribute and the school still wants to go ahead, then the school has to pay for the roundabout, the entire cost.
So I guess with that condition, the way the Shire is written, they've already an indication, because you're going to have some hard discussions with them, presumably before a shovel goes in the ground.
Oh, absolutely.
And I guess that condition, as it's written now, at least gives an indication of where the Shire's position that they will take when you have those discussions.
I think the important thing is that the Shire is and has already showed a willingness and is actively pursuing funding for that roundabout. And we completely acknowledge that and we're incredibly grateful for it. So we are hopeful that funding, and the school will also use its endeavours to lobby and try and help get that funding for the roundabout, because it's in the school's best interest for the roundabout to be there. No roundabout, no school. So all we're saying is let's work together on it, but there's no need to have a stipulated cost sharing arrangement of it, because the condition says if there's no roundabout, there's no school. It's everyone's best interest to work together to deliver that roundabout.
Thank you. Well, we've been round and round the roundabout a few times. Does anyone have any more questions on that? I've just got another question of Mr. Reid. No. I guess the other question is looking at the objective of the rural zone and also local planning policy 4.2.26. In both cases, it talks about benefit to the community and beneficial uses. Could you give us your argument as to how it meets the school?
The school is a community benefit, even if it's for a private organisation, it still reduces demand on government schools. There's still, I think someone's worked out the percentage of it's 1.7% of the local community. That's still a community benefit. There's obviously a benefit for a school to be in a local catchment, especially with this community. Their numbers are moving down south and they're moved closer to where the schools and the environment is. They all pay rates. It's all beneficial. There's another school there that if that closes, they'll be likely to redevelop to something else. All of that has ongoing benefits to the local community.
Is it open to?
You have to be a member of the organisation.
And that's legally, I know there's been some discussion about discrimination at a federal level, but I'm not familiar with that. But anyway, so they're saying you have to be a member of that community to attend that school.
My understanding. Ask the CEO. So the CEO is actually here. If you want to Mr. Derek Swartz is on the presentation list. If you'd like to answer.
Okay. Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, you might give us your comments on the community benefit.
Sure. So in our
sorry, if you'd just like to come forward. Thanks.
Morning, everyone. My name is Derek Swartz. I'm the CEO of the Freeform School Association. So perhaps some of the history behind this might be helpful. We've mapped where our parents and members are and where they're moving, and they're increasingly moving south. So we run 5 schools, Armadale, Kelmscott, Byford, Rockingham, and one in Cape in the southwest. within the South Metro, our members are distinctly moving south more into the Byford, Oakford, Mundijong areas. And then that creates a dislocation between our current facilities are and where the new premises is. To go to your specific question about membership, anyone who's a member of the church is welcome to enrol their students or children at our school. So the entrance, and we have many people who enrol who are becoming members of the church, right? It's not that hard and fast with regard to that. There are ways in which people can access the facilities of the school.
Thank you. Sorry, did you have a question?
Yeah, I do have a question. With your other.
You happy to take?
Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Well, as long as you're happy for me to answer.
With the other schools you've mentioned, have got a community like a reference group or shared agreements with the local shires?
No, we don't. No.
And would you be open to over here?
So with regard to the community reference group, my personal question around that is the fact that it has no time limit on it. So is it intended to exist for all time? It seems to me that it'd be quite reasonable to have a community reference group, and I haven't seen any terms of reference or anything like that around the construction phase, because presumably that would be the point where there'd be the most concerns. I'm not opposed to it. I would prefer that there's some clarity around how long the community reference group would be expected to exist for.
Andrew, can you provide any help there in terms of reference? And I mean, I guess if the whole world was happy, then there might not be a need for it at some time. But Andrew.
Yeah, thank you for the question through you, Mr. Chairman. The community reference group would usually be in place as long as there's an issue that's driving its need to be there. I agree that construction and handling of construction is commonly used for infrastructure projects like the Tonkin Highway and the Metronet. Byford have community reference groups formed through their construction phases. There may need to be a little bit of carryover post-construction as the school knits in and starts operating. There might be elements around slight tweaks that could be done to manage the operations. I don't think it would be something that would be needed to go on forever. I think it probably would need to extend beyond just the construction phase. In terms of reference, we usually ask the applicant to prepare terms of reference for Shire consideration and presentation to our council to endorse. Our community reference groups sort of operate. We've got two currently in existence, one at Austral Bricks, one at Dorrell Sands. They have a councillor member and usually surrounding landowner memberships, membership of the operator and an independent chair.
Thank you. I'm not suggesting maybe another condition, but a lot of schools now have had to resort to some kind of parent group to manage access, because not every parent knows how to behave when they are delivering their child to school. Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. Panel members, any more questions of any of the presenters? Yes. Councillor Duggan, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A question for Mr. Trossick. Ms. Reynolds has mentioned the fill on the site. What's the Shire's stand with the impact on surrounding landowners with the fill?
Certainly, thank you for the question through you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, we do sort of have the floodplain that covers the majority of Oakford and Byford, more or less south of Thomas Road all the way through to Mundijong Road. It will need to ensure that we have careful approach to how fill is brought into the site, so that the school itself is got the right separation from the maximum groundwater level. The size of the property versus the development envelope means there's more than adequate areas to offset the space that will otherwise be taken up by the school grounds. So we're very able to manage essentially the bit they're going to rise out of the floodplain, and the dispersal of that water will be able to be managed elsewhere on the same property.
And if I may ask a supplementary question.
Yes.
Thank you. So if there is concerns from a resident for such a thing as that, I'm just trying to get an idea of the terms of reference. If there was a CRG, would that go through the CRG, or would that go directly to the Shire? What would be the intention of a question like that if a surrounding landowner had problems with water going onto their property?
Yeah, thank you for the question. If there was an immediate risk of flooding, then definitely that would come straight to us. So if there's something that is changed that is causing dramatic impact on the local area, they could come straight to us and we can work out what's going on.
But it offers them sort of two different pathways if they choose one or the other.
That's right. Like the avenue of looping residents with nearby operators, particularly where there's might be some controversy around the development, it I guess helps to maybe reduce some of those having the Shire have to act as an intermediary, and it can start to reduce some of those barriers through opening up communication and maybe some sort of trade-offs on both perspectives. If there's a small thing that can be done differently, that's going to improve the livelihoods of surrounding people, then I'm sure that the school would be willing to consider those kind of suggestions.
Thank you.
Panel members, any further questions? Just in relation to the shared use of facilities, that would be a matter of agreement between the yourselves, the Shire, and the school.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we do present those through to council. The Salvado's Catholic College one was presented through to council. We had a lot of controls around it, namely around the use, the hours of use, the nature of use, and things like that.
So there would be consultation between the two parties.
It would need to be I feel the way we've approached it have to be a two-way agreement.
Thank you. Okay.
Might I just further to that ask the question through you, Mr. Chair?
Councillor Mack.
The shared use agreement, and we're obviously looking somewhere into the future for when this is built. It has been flagged by the WAPC to the Shire to do somewhat of an urbanisation of the Oakford area. Whilst I respect that the Shire's recommendation was not to support that, that future planning, consideration. Was the applicant here mentioned that it was removed from Byford itself? Do you see this being a critical area for future need for public open spaces?
Yeah, thank you for the question. The community infrastructure public open space strategy does show shortfalls across Byford and Oakford. Oakford's a much less dense community than Byford, but just in terms of how close this site is to Byford, from the western parts of Byford, it would be not much more than a couple of minute drive in a car, 10-minute bike ride, 20-minute walk. So it is still proximate to the urban areas of Byford. Densities do drop off as you move closer to this site. The lot size has increased to 1 and 2 hectares, but there is certainly substantial density relatively close to the site.
Thank you.
Thank you. And panel members, if there's no further questions, we'll move to the item, which is for number 575 Abernathy Road, Oakford, proposed educational establishment. This is a section 31 reconsideration of a SAT appeal. We have a recommendation to approve the application with a number of conditions. Do I have a mover and a seconder for the recommendation before us? It's moved, Councillor Duggan, seconded Councillor Mack. So,
can I ask for a small amendment as part of the moving motion?
yeah, sure.
With condition T, that there be, if I can have just with wording, but that it be the community reference group be in place until 12 months after the intake of the first students from beginning of development.
Commencement of beginning commencement of development, not
commencement
okay.
of development. So the reference group is in place from the commencement of development through to 12 months after the intake of the first lot of students.
Councillor Mack, you happy with that?
I would prefer 24 months, but
yep, I'm happy with that.
24 months.
What's
so have you got that for us, Laura? Okay. Panel members, everyone clear on? So we've got a mover to approve the application, but with an amendment to condition T to put a time frame, if you like, on the community reference from commencement of development for a period of 24 months after operation. Is that right? Or after development?
After the opening.
After the opening, yes. So it's the development period plus another 2 years, 24 months.
I just wanted to ask a clarification. The development we take is taking also into account the construction period?
Yes,
yes,
that's
from the beginning,
well,
right,
perhaps
right from construction.
the
So
certainty for commencement of construction.
Actually, the construction would have been.
Yeah. Okay, that's clearer.
Yeah.
Prior to the construction.
Okay, thank you. So, Councillor, we've got an agreement of the seconder on that. So, Councillor Duggan is the mover. Would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was present when this was brought to DAP previously, and I do distinctly remember the biggest concern being that intersection. The Shire has certainly learnt lessons from Court Grammar, which we've all seen pictures presented in the slides here today, where we can see that Court Grammar does have a lot of traffic issues. I do believe this roundabout is absolutely pivotal to that, and I commend the school for coming forward to work with the Shire to get that roundabout in place. I also would like to thank the residents for their contributions, and I think that one of the biggest reasons why we have uncertainty and people who are concerned is when there's not good communication and good connections between the different people in our community. That is what local government is here for. Local government is to take those concerns, be a voice for the residents, and trying to find a way that perhaps not everybody is 100% happy, but that the proponent and the community feel like they've at least A, been heard, and B, we've found a resolution that they can at least work with. I think what we've presented here today, including conditions S and T, are very important because they help to break down those barriers that are between the proponent and the community, so that it can open up some communication. Hopefully there can be a better understanding of what this religion is. This is certainly not the forum for us to be discussing religion. However, I think that there is a potential there for this to be a great thing for the church and for the community. And so I commend and put forward this motion. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Mack is the seconder.
Thank you, presiding member. Couple of points I wanted to quickly touch on with regards to condition Q. It was mentioned that, you know, no roundabout, no school, but Mr. Reid also mentioned about the uncertainty of the future and the funding, and I wanted to just mention in the response from the Shire, it did say that the recommended RAR was as such to ensure certainty and finality under either circumstance. And I think it is important that we make sure we have that certainty going forward with the recommendation. I also wanted to touch on condition T, where the reference was given to the community reference group as only being needed around the building of the site. And I do somewhat disagree with that. I've got kids at the school at the moment, and I know school community behaviours are a big concern surrounding residents as well. So I do think that the 24-month period of that community reference group being able to help shape the behaviours expected the school community is of a good asset to this recommendation. So I do commend the recommendation as it stands.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak against the motion? Jackie, I'll move to you. Do you wish to speak to the item?
Yeah. I was concerned about some of the uncertainty going into this meeting, and I thank the Shire officers for providing that clarity. I also support the recommended conditions as worded. I think they provide certainty, and I think there are sufficient nexus with proper and planning proposals. So I am cautiously supportive of the proposal.
Thank you. Nima,
would like to thank all the parties for getting together and resolving all the outstanding issues. Very well done. I would also like to commend the Shire for putting forward very certain conditions that are clear and has got finalities. There's no doubt and hopefully no potential problems down the line. And at least, last of all, just I wish you all the best with your grants for Black Spot. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm also supporting the motion. I would like to change a couple of the conditions, but I don't know whether I'll get support for that, but I might test that. But firstly, I'll just mention that, and I appreciate the interest and concerns that the residents have had, and there's no doubt that this school will change things in that area. It won't be the same as it was. However, the question we have to consider, given that this is a use that we have the discretion to approve, so it's something that is allowed, we have to consider whether that impact is going to be unreasonable. And I think it's been fairly well demonstrated that yes, it will be different, but it won't be unreasonable or intolerable. I've dealt with a few items in Serpentine, Jarrahdale, and it's obviously it's going through some growing pains. We get this. There's change happening everywhere, and a number of the applications we get, they can be contentious, and that's just a function.
Has it gone quiet?
Yes.
Have we lost the main feed?
It appears that way.
The last thing I heard was growing pains. So it appears the IT is going through some growing pains.
And yes, as I said, you might not have heard, but yeah, schools are commonly allowed in rural zones, and as they are here. But I was referring to condition, what is it, condition S, which is the shared agreement, and that'll need to be worked out. But I mean, as I mentioned earlier, one of the objectives of the rural zone, and also under the policy, the local planning policy, it talks about benefit to the community, and I think it's important for all schools, whether they're private schools or government schools, to have to make their facilities within reason available to the community. So I think and I think it meets from a planning point of view, and considering the validity of the condition, I think it addresses that objective and that provision in the local policy. So I'm happy to agree that stay in. I do have a bit of a concern with the, suppose it is certain, but the directness of condition L1, the perimeter fencing, being quite specific. And can I ask, sorry, Andrew, is that supported by a planning provision?
We do have, thank you for the question, we do have what we call our local planning policy that deals with like a state perimeter fencing. So we do have a local planning policy that says we don't support particularly some of this sort of low sort of aesthetic timberlap, brushwood, colour bond fencing as a state wall. So we've got an estate walls policy. This one is more, I guess, a bit more broadly removed from that in terms of more of an assessment against the objectives of the rural zone, and just trying to keep in keeping with the I guess what you would reasonably expect to see as a perimeter fencing treatment on a rural property. So we don't specifically have a condition, a local planning policy specific to rural fencing as such.
Okay, thank you. So I will test that maybe if that condition was deleted, they would still need to come back to the Shire and seek approval for whatever fencing. I'm just wondering maybe if we change that to perimeter fencing to the satisfaction of the Shire, and we'll maybe add an advice note to say that the preferred fencing in this case would be along the lines or the likes of rammed earth and or earth block column support. So at least when they come back, they've got some direction. So I'll propose that amendment that we change the wording just to detailing the following: perimeter fencing to the satisfaction of the Shire, and add an advice note to say that in relation to condition L1, that the Shire would be seeking a high standard of fencing along the lines of, if that's good enough wording, along the lines of rammed earth and or earth block column supports with infill garrison type fencing. So, yeah, got that? Claire's got it.
Yep.
Thank you. So anyway, I'll move that and see if we have a seconder. No? It lapses. Oh, sorry, we've got a seconder. Thank you, Jackie.
Yeah, so I would second, but maybe with amended rural type or something, just to provide that clarity of what the officers were trying to achieve. So not so specific, but giving them some parameters of it's a rural type or character or something to those words.
Well, I guess the question is whether that what the Shire is suggesting is rural type fencing. it seems to be a little bit beyond that. But so would you second it with that
Yes.
addition of rural?
Yeah,
Okay.
rural or suitable locality or something that I'd be happy to be guided by the officers if they're happy with that.
Yes. Okay. So we've got that. Claire? Thank you. So I have a move in a second. I don't need to speak anymore to it. Did you want to speak to it, Jackie?
No, I think that you've explained the reasoning behind it sufficiently.
Okay, thank you.
Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Trustee, this L1, the amended prudent offence which incorporates rammed earth and or earth block, has that been discussed with the proponent directly, or is this something that's come purely from the Shire?
Thank you for the question. So this is something put forward as part of the Shire's recommendation. That garrison fencing was
And if I may, second question, would the Shire feel that any wording would give them sufficient ability to be able to have high standard substantial fencing if the amended motion was to go forward?
The benefit of the advice note, that helps significantly. The benefit of to the Shire's satisfaction and some words around keeping with the rural aesthetic of the locality. I feel confident that we'll be able to find a position that's acceptable to the Shire.
That's some good words. The rural aesthetic of the, if we can put that in the advice note. And thank you. And yeah, Councillor Duggan, in moving the motion, the condition would say to the satisfaction of the Shire. So there's still room, but it's less of a straitjacket. It's just less of a straitjacket, I guess. Okay. So anyone wish to speak against that amendment? No? No one speaking against, so I'll declare that carried unanimously. Thank you. And I'll speak to condition Q, and I think it's been agreed that in some respects they're saying the same, the alternative condition is saying the same thing as this one. This one is just going a bit further, and I guess that's my concern, is that it's, if you like, introducing negotiations that I think are perhaps a little bit, I understand that there are cases where conditions are that you have to make alterations to the road, but in this, it might be for example, installation of a median or something like that, and that's the responsibility because of the development. In this case, is clear that the roundabout is required in any event, and I guess if the Shire is immovable, then the roundabout is not going to happen, and therefore the school's not going to happen. So I think that the alternative condition achieves ultimately the roundabout before the school, that achieves that, and it just leaves things a bit more open for consideration. So I'll move that the alternative recommendation is put forward by the applicant replace condition Q. Do I have a seconder? No? Well, that's one seconder. Thank you. So that's me done. So I'll move back to the mover, which is Councillor Duggan, to close debate.
Thanks very much, the Chair. I feel like we've well discussed this issue, and I commend all parties for coming to a point where I feel that everyone's had a chance to express how they feel and what they feel is best for our community, as well as what's best for the proponent to be able to work together, to be able to move forward. And I commend this motion as presented.
Thank you. So I'll put that motion with those two amendments, I think it is. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. So that concludes the matters for consideration by the DAP. We have a list of SAT applications and Supreme Court appeals for information. There's any, I don't know, this is a new one on me. Ask if there's any general business. Any general business? No, thank you. So I'll declare the meeting closed at 11:21 and thank everyone for their attendance and contribution to the debate today, and that includes the residents who have come along. Thank you.